Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're digging into the invisible ingredients that literally power our modern world, and how one country quietly cornered the market on all of them.
Let me just start with a question for you. What if I told you that the phone in your pocket, that electric car you've been eyeing, and our entire green energy future, what if all of it is dependent on the whims of one single country?
Okay, hold on, Leo. That sounds a little extreme. Controlled? How? Are we talking about some kind of conspiracy theory here?
No, not a conspiracy. It's something much more real. And it all boils down to this specific group of materials that are the secret ingredient in just about everything we use. The answer is something called rare earth elements, or REEs. Basically, they're a group of 17 metals on the periodic table, and people call them the vitamins of industry. Why? Because tiny amounts of them create these incredible magnetic and light-emitting properties that are just absolutely essential for all of our high-tech gadgets.
Okay, rare earths. The name seems pretty self-explanatory, so they must be incredibly hard to find, right? Super rare? You know, that's the first huge misconception, and it's a big one. They're not actually geologically rare at all. Some of them are more common in the Earth's crust than copper or lead. The name is totally misleading. The problem isn't finding them. It's that separating them from the rock they're mixed in with is unbelievably difficult, messy, and chemically intensive. So they aren't geologically rare, they're economically rare to produce.
Let's make this really concrete. Think about the smartphone right in your hand. You know the little motor that makes it vibrate? That's a tiny, powerful magnet made with neodymium. Those brilliant, vibrant colors on your screen? That's thanks to yttrium, europium, and terbium. Even the glass in your camera lens, to make it super clear, that needs lanthanum. They are, quite literally, the secret sauce.
And it goes way, way beyond just our phones. We're talking about the high-strength magnets inside every single electric vehicle motor and every giant wind turbine. And then there's national security. They're critical for missile guidance, for fighter jets, for advanced radar. I mean, they're in MRI machines, LED lights, pretty much everything.
Wow. Okay, I had no idea it was that deep. So modern life, as we know it, just wouldn't work without them.
So how on earth did we get to this point? How did one country end up dominating something that is so fundamental to everything? And that's the million-dollar question. Because it wasn't an accident, not at all. It was a very deliberate, very long-term strategy. You can trace it all the way back to this one statement in 1987 from China's leader at the time, Deng Xiaoping. He basically saw the future and realized these obscure metals were going to be the 21st century's version of oil.
And this timeline right here shows you exactly how that vision became a reality. It starts with Deng's declaration. Then, by 2002, China's pricing strategy had completely shut down the leading U.S. mine. Fast forward to 2010, China flexes its muscles and hits Japan with an embargo, showing the world, hey, we've got this lever. And just recently, in 2023, they made their processing tech a state secret. This was a 40-year plan in the making.
And they pulled it off with this brilliant two-pronged attack. First, they used price as a weapon. They had state-backed companies flood the global market with cheap rare earths. No Western company could possibly compete. And second, they made an environmental sacrifice. They basically accepted staggering ecological damage as a cost of doing business, a cost that countries in the West, with their strict regulations, just weren't willing to pay.
And when I say staggering damage, I really mean it. Just try to wrap your head around this number. For every single ton of pure rare earths they produce, the process can create up to 2,000 tons of toxic waste. We're talking about vast, poisonous sludge ponds full of acids and even radioactive material.
But here's the real kicker. The West wasn't just a passive victim in all of this. In a way, it was a willing participant. Back in the 80s and 90s, policymakers basically saw rare earth mining as a difficult and dirty business, and were more than happy to let someone else do it so they could get cheap parts. It was a really short-sighted decision that led us straight to where we are today.
So at the end of the day, this all comes down to the fact that China just has most of the world's rare earth deposits, right? They just got lucky and won the geological lottery.
And that right there is the single most important myth to bust. It is the key to this whole story. Look at this. Sure, China has a lot of reserves, about 44%, but Vietnam and Brazil have a ton too. The real power isn't about what's in the ground. It's about processing. It's about turning that raw ore into the usable metals. And China controls almost 90% of the world's capacity to do that.
I mean, just look at how stark that is. That 90% figure, that's the real choke point. For years, it was so extreme that even the ore that was mined in the United States had to be loaded onto a ship and sent all the way to China to be processed. So having the rocks is one thing. Being the only one who knows how to refine them, that's everything.
Yeah, this processing, it's like the alchemist's art of our time. It's an incredibly complex industrial process that China has poured decades and billions of dollars into perfecting. And now, by banning the export of this technology, they've officially walled it off as a state secret. It's their ultimate trump card.
So what does that actually mean in the real world? What are the consequences of one country having that kind of control?
Oh, we've already had a very clear preview. Back in 2010, during a political dispute with Japan, China just turned off the tap. They cut off exports. And the result? The prices for some of these critical metals shot up by over 1,000% almost overnight. It sent a massive shockwave through the global economy. It was the first real wake-up call.
And this isn't just about your wallet. It is a huge national security vulnerability. A single F-35 fighter jet needs about 900 pounds of rare earths. A Virginia-class submarine needs over 9,000 pounds. The very foundations of the most advanced military hardware in the world depend on a primary strategic rival.
And if you really want to be worried, a U.S. government report put out a pretty chilling warning. It said that if China decided to completely cut off the supply, the inventory for some of America's most critical weapon systems would be totally gone in just 90 days. 3 months. That's it.
This is what it all leads to. It is the definition of checkmate. After a 40-year game of geopolitical chess, played with incredible patience and strategy, the world's most advanced economies find themselves totally dependent on their main strategic competitor for the very materials that ensure both their prosperity and their security.
Wow, that is a pretty bleak picture, Leo. So, is that it? Is there anything that can actually be done? Or is the world just stuck like this forever?
Well, not entirely. It's like the West has finally woken up and smelled the coffee. We're now seeing this frantic race for resilience. The EU has passed a Critical Raw Materials Act with really ambitious goals for 2030. The US is leading an alliance of friendly nations to build totally new supply chains, and they're pouring hundreds of millions of dollars directly into creating a domestic, mine-to-magnet industry from scratch.
But at the end of the day, it all boils down to this fundamental trade-off. For decades, the status quo gave us cheap electronics, but it came with massive geopolitical risks and huge environmental costs that were just out of sight, out of mind. Building a new, secure supply chain, well, that promises stability and higher ethical standards, but it will almost certainly mean we all pay a higher price. It means finally internalizing the true cost of our technology. Which really brings us to the final question, and this one is for everyone watching. As we push forward into this high-tech green future, are we willing to pay a security and ethics premium for the technology that defines our modern lives? Because the answer to that question is going to shape the world for a long, long time.